They dragged her not to a scaffold or stake, but to a monstrous wheel of iron and oak. Catherine of Luxembourg's death was not meant to be swift. It was meant to be a spectacle where every snap of bone echoed across the square, turning her agony into theatre. Catherine was no faceless prisoner. She was a noblewoman, tied by blood to one of Europe's most powerful dynasties. The House of Luxembourg had crowned kings, ruled duchies, and forged alliances across the continent. Her fall was unthinkable until it came. France in 1356 was a kingdom torn by the 100 Years' War. Armies burned villages, fields rotted, and famine stalked the land. Nobles turned on each other, whispering treason in smoke-filled halls. In this chaos, even family ties could become a noose. Catherine's enemies accused her of plotting with the English, a betrayal beyond forgiveness. They claimed she carried secret letters, conspired to open gates, and undermined France's fragile unity. Proof was thin, but the timing made it deadly. A scapegoat was needed. The trial was a mockery of justice. Witnesses spoke under duress, accusations twisted into certainty. The judges sat stern-faced, unwilling to challenge the political winds. For a noblewoman accused of treason, there was only one sentence: to be broken on the wheel. The wheel was not chosen at random. It was the punishment reserved for traitors and the vilest criminals. To put a noblewoman on it was shocking, deliberate. It was designed to strip away her dignity and show that no bloodline, however royal, stood above the crown. As word spread, crowds gathered. Some came from miles away to witness it. Merchants sold wine, children clung to their parents, priests muttered prayers. For many, it was entertainment. For others, a holy warning. No one would leave unmoved. Catherine was led to the square in chains. Eyewitnesses wrote that she walked with trembling steps, but her gaze remained fixed ahead. Some said she whispered prayers, others swore they heard curses. Either way, she refused to collapse before her accusers. The executioner loomed beside the wheel, his iron bar glinting in the daylight. His role was infamous, not to kill quickly, but to drag death out for hours. He was both butcher and performer, his strikes timed for maximum spectacle. The crowd hushed as she was bound across the spokes. Her arms stretched above, her legs spread wide, her noble body displayed for judgment. The wheel turned slowly, creaking under her weight. It was not a tool of death, but of destruction. The first blow landed on her leg. The sound was sickening, bone shattering beneath iron. Catherine screamed, her voice slicing through the silence. Mothers covered children's eyes. Yet the executioner paused, letting the horror sink in before striking again. One leg shattered, then the other. Catherine writhed, her body convulsing. Each strike drew gasps from the crowd. Some wept, others shouted for mercy, but the wheel was not about mercy. It was about fear, a message carved into flesh and bone. Her arms came next. The executioner raised the bar high and brought it down with precision. Bones cracked, splinters piercing her skin. Blood streaked the wooden spokes. Catherine's limbs twisted grotesquely, her noble form reduced to ruin. And then came the weaving. The executioner bent her broken limbs through the spokes, knotting her body into a grotesque lattice of flesh and wood. She was no longer a woman, but a symbol, mangled proof of the crown's vengeance. But Catherine did not die. Her chest heaved, her lips whispering prayers or curses. It was impossible to tell. Her eyes glistened, locked on the heavens. Some in the crowd crossed themselves. Others recoiled, realizing noble blood was no shield from pain. Hours dragged on. Birds circled above as if awaiting the feast. Catherine gasped for air, each breath a battle. The executioner, sweating, struck again. This time her ribs. They collapsed inward, puncturing her lungs, yet still she clung to life. A priest approached, offering last rites. Catherine turned her head away. Whether in defiance or despair, no one could agree. Some saw it as pride, others as damnation. Either way, she chose not to yield to the church's final comfort. Eyewitnesses claimed her agony lasted nearly half a day. Children fell asleep in their mother's arms, then woke to see her still suffering. The crowd's initial thrill faded to unease. Whispers spread, "This punishment is too cruel, even for a traitor." Finally, the executioner ended it. He raised the iron bar one last time and crushed her skull. Silence fell. Catherine's body slumped, blood trickling down the wheel's spokes. The crowd knew they had witnessed something unforgettable, both justice and atrocity. Her body was left on display, rotting in the square. Crows picked at her flesh. For days, her mangled corpse reminded all of what awaited those who betrayed France. Travelers passed, shuddering at the sight of a noble reduced to carrion. But whispers spread quickly. Some said her punishment was too savage, that no woman, no noble, should suffer such a fate. Others praised it, saying the crown must be merciless in times of war. Her wheel became a battlefield of opinion. Politically, the message was clear. Catherine's execution silenced dissent, temporarily. But beneath the surface, resentment brewed. Her death was not forgotten. It became a grim story told in halls and villages, a warning of what kings would do to keep power. The legacy of her death lingered for centuries. Catherine of Luxembourg was remembered not for her life, but for her suffering. She was the noblewoman who met the wheel, her body shattered to prove a point, her agony stretched across hours for the sake of fear. And so, Catherine forces us to ask, when rulers cloak cruelty in the name of justice, what truly remains of justice itself? Her screams echo still, asking if survival under tyranny is worth the silence of obedience. Would you have stood and watched? If this tale unsettled you, share your thoughts below. Was Catherine's death justice or barbarity? And if you thought this was horrifying, join us next time as we descend into the Roman arena, where gladiators met a punishment even more unthinkable, buried alive.